Hello audience, I'm Nathan, student number S2799700, and I am here today bringing you a report of the multi-agent application used within the game of F.E.A.R, or more specifically, its AI. This report will be laid out like so. First, we will start with an overview of what F.E.A.R is and how it works. Then I will talk about the purpose of multi-agent applications within F.E.A.R, and what problem it solves. Then I will talk about why it was implemented, and how it could be done without multi-agent applications. I will then talk about the purpose of the individual agents within the application, and then about any interesting aspects of how this has all been implemented. Then I will finally talk about how the multi-agent application was intended for the game and how it could be improved in the future. So I've chosen the multi-agent application of F.E.A.R, which is a first-person shooter, single-player horror game. I'm specifically looking at the AI of the enemies within the game and their goals that they are trying to achieve. These goals are to find the player, alert the rest of the team to the player, work together to kill the player, using tactics and strategies, and if worse comes to worse, try to flee and find reinforcements. So why am I using this for the multi-agent application? Well, F.E.A.R's AI is surprisingly intelligent, as it will have the individual enemies take in the situation around them and react accordingly. They were created to do this by being programmed with very simple brains. This image gives a good example of how it works. As you can see, each enemy is made up of many different subsystems and reactions, which are all automated, allowing them to think for themselves. They have a working memory which stores what the AI knows about the world, which allows them to be tricked by players if they have not been warned by other agents. They also have a world state, which remembers the environment around them and allows them to plan out how to achieve their goals efficiently and intelligently. They also have a brain, which stores simple information like how far they can roll or how long a grenade has before it explodes. Keeping all this in mind, this video gives a good example of the many ways that the multi-agents work within F.E.A.R. So as you can see from the video, it is surprisingly advanced how the separate enemies, or agents as we shall now refer to them, react, plan, and work together to achieve their goals. So now that we know what I'm talking about, we can start with Part 1. What is the purpose of the application and what problems does it solve? So the purpose of the application is actually quite simple. The agents have to figure out a way to achieve their goal, relying on only the information they have themselves at their disposal, to plan their next action or strategy. For example, if they have the goal to kill the player, and the player happens to be hiding behind a desk, using the information available to them, one could decide to toss a grenade over the desk to drive the player out of hiding or to attempt to kill them right there. The agent will try to help the other agents around them that they are working with by giving them information so that they will adjust their actions and strategies accordingly. So back at our example, if one of the agents throws a grenade, it will shout "Grenade!" to inform the other agents of what has changed. Any agents that hear this will know that it is a bad idea to rush the area until after the grenade has gone off. They will also do their best to gain and share information to try and survive in the environments around them, and to use it to their best advantage to achieve their goal. So, however, if they attempt to find cover, then they must keep in mind the positions of the other agents around them to ensure that they work to their best effectiveness. The problem that the usage of multi-agent applications solves is the true intelligence of the AI for each soldier. Woodridge and Jennings claim that an AI is truly intelligent when it shows several features. Assuming that what they say is true, then we will need to prove these several features for F.E.A.R's AI. These features are reactivity, which is the agent that can see the environment around them and react to it in a way that will help it fulfill its objectives. The next is proactiveness. An agent will take the initiative by carrying out an action to help it satisfy its goal. And the last is social ability. These agents are able to interact with other agents to help satisfy its goal. So first, let's look at reactivity. An agent in F.E.A.R shows its reactivity with how it reacts to the situation and the environment around them. For example, if the player runs into a room and starts shooting anyone in sight, the agent's first action will be to react to the danger by either fighting back or finding cover. From there, they will take in the new situation and plan accordingly. This is not their only reaction, however. If a grenade lands near an enemy, it will react by shouting a warning to its fellows and trying to find cover to avoid being blown up by the grenade. Also, if an enemy is taken by surprise by the player trying to kill them quickly, they will react by attempting to shout a warning to the rest so that they will be aware of the player's actions. They will also react if a player gets into melee range with them by attempting to melee the player themselves. So, are F.E.A.R's agents reactive? Yes, they are, as they will react to whatever the situation calls for them to achieve their goal, or preserve their own life. So now, are they proactive? An enemy unit in F.E.A.R will often show their proactiveness within their tactics that they use against a player. For example, if a player is hiding behind a piece of cover while trading with an enemy in the front of them, the enemy will often try to flank the player to get an advantage over the player's position and circumvent their cover altogether. They will also attempt to make a player move from their hiding spot by attempting to flush the player out with grenades and explosives. Any enemy units in F.E.A.R will also show themselves being proactive by attempting to make cover for themselves if none are available to them. They will try to do this by moving to a better position or attempting to knock things over to hide behind. So are F.E.A.R's agents proactive? Yes, they are. They actively attempt to get a better position to achieve their goal or avoid losing their life needlessly. So the last question is, does the enemy unit in F.E.A.R have social abilities? In F.E.A.R, the enemy units will often work in groups, working together to attempt to achieve their goals. They will communicate with each other to help the entire group get a better position to achieve their goal, and will attempt to execute plans that involve several agents working together to succeed. like having one enemy unit attempting to give cover fire to keep the player from attacking efficiently, while others attempt to use the distraction to sneak around the side and flank the player, while a third tosses a grenade at the player to force them to move into a worse position. So, does F.E.A.R's agents have social abilities? Yes, they will frequently work together to achieve their goals. And since F.E.A.R's agents are reactive, proactive, and have social abilities, they are true intelligent agents. So now we are looking at part 2. Why was multi-agent methodology employed in this solution? And how may a non-multi-agent methodology be applied? Multi-agent methodology was employed to make the AI for the enemy of F.E.A.R more challenging for the player to fight against, and also for the ease of their creation for the programmer, who admitted that it was partial laziness that first had made the AI use multi-agent methodology. The way the multi-agent methodology works makes the AI appear rather intelligent in the game, and allows the game maker more flexibility with what they can do within the combat situations. The AI could have been made similar without using multi-agent methodologies through scripting from human programmers for each and every situation in the game, telling the enemy units what to do, negating the need for any actual AI. But that is a long and time-consuming process, which is why the original programmer for F.E.A.R decided to implement a multi-agent approach over a non-intelligent agent approach. Part 3. What is the purpose of the individual agents in this application? The purpose of the individual agents, or the enemy units, in F.E.A.R are to kill the player, which they attempt by attacking the player. This is the overall main purpose, and nothing will override it unless it has a better advantage elsewhere. Preserving their life for as long as possible. By dodging out of the way of attacks, and taking cover, or running away if they are losing and cannot see a good chance of victory. And the last is to share information with other agents, to help increase their chances of success, as they inform other agents of where the player is and what is happening around them. Part 4. What are the interesting aspects of its implementation? The first interesting aspect we will look at here is that the multi-agents in F.E.A.R are implemented using a new type of structure, which is based off strips planning. It is called Goal-Orientated Action Planning, or GOAP. While strips uses a goal stack to decide its planning and lists its actions with a name, a precondition list, a delete and an add list, GOAP changes several things. It adds a cost per action, gets rid of the add and delete lists for its effects, and it also adds a list of procedural preconditions and effects. It then uses A* search to find the best set of actions within the situation that the agent finds itself to help it reach its goal. An example of this could be an agent deciding whether to use a grenade or to try and shoot the player, depending on the amount of time they have available to them. Another interesting aspect is the actual architecture of the agents used within the game. There are 3 types of agent architectures: symbiotic, also known as logical, reactive, and hybrid. Symbiotic architecture uses a database of knowledge and information to decide what to do. Reactive architecture understands the environment around it and makes a decision based on the state of the environment and themselves. Hybrid architecture combines both of these ideas, as it reacts up to immediate states within the environment to themselves, and uses logical or symbiotic reasoning to then plan for the next course of action when the reactions are not being called, allowing the agent to deal with the environment around them while attempting to actively fulfill their goal. Another interesting aspect of the application is the environment, and how the agents interact with it. The environments for the agents are inaccessible, non-deterministic, sequential, dynamic, usually, and discrete. The environment is inaccessible because the agent cannot get all the information about the environment, as it only knows what it has currently gained from its position and stored away. It is non-deterministic because it has no truly determined way of knowing how a fight with a player will go, as the player does not follow any rules apart from the overall law prescribed by the game. The environment is sequential, but it is only rarely noted because an agent can learn to guess the player's tactics, but this only happens if it has lived long enough to see how the player acts beforehand. The environment is also discrete because the actual environment is fixed, meaning there is only so many actions that the agents are aware of due to the game limitations. Part 5. How is it intended and how could this application evolve in the future? The multi-agent application for F.E.A.R was intended to make the enemy units within the game as challenging and realistic as possible for the player to fight against, while allowing the game to work out most of the details of how it will do this by itself. This could be improved in the future by making the goals more complex, and giving the AI a better understanding of tactics, and a better understanding of the initial environment around them. This will help them seem more like a well-oiled team of soldiers, making them even more challenging and intelligent to fight against for the player.